Hi everybody! I hope you can see me. Welcome to our live author event. I am Amy Maroney and I'm the author of The Girl from Oto. Today I'm going to be reading to you from chapter 1 of The Girl from Oto, and my story is traveling with my two young daughters. I wish they had a point of connection with all of the amazing art that we saw in museums. Portraits of long dead people, painted by long dead men, meant nothing to them. Then I saw a 500-year-old portrait of a mysterious woman that had been painted by a woman. And I thought, so there were women painters in those days. Who knew? And as a story began to emerge in my mind about two strong and talented women, separated by centuries, but connected through time by art and truth. And so the Miramon series was born. And now, in addition to The Girl from Oto, the book 2 in the series is coming out this summer. It's called Mira's Way. And there is also a prequel novella available, and that's called The Promise. So now I'm going to read to you from chapter 1 of The Girl from Oto. I hope you enjoy it. Autumn 1484, Castle Oto, Aragon. Elena. Like the breath of an angry god, the wind streamed over the mountains from the north and slammed into the castle. The balcony shutters bucked and heaved, straining against the iron latches that held them in place. To Elena's ears, the sound was the hollow clacking of bones. Wind goes where it wants, she thought, finding the source of a draft with her fingertips. She closed her eyes and imagined herself in the forest, where brittle leaves swirled in unruly flocks and golden-eyed owls blinked in the high branches of oaks. A faint moan rose up from across the room. Elena straightened up, squared her shoulders. The sooner they got on with it, the sooner she could escape these walls. She rolled up a small woolen rug and wedged it against the base of the shutters, muffling the rattle. Then she padded across the thick Moorish rugs to the great bed and pulled aside the drapes. The young woman lay curled on her side. In the candlelight, it was difficult to pick out details, but Elena had dressed and undressed this body so many times that she did not need the aid of the sun to understand the predicament. The woman, still a girl really, was built like a snowfinch. Her belly was far too large for her bony frame. For months, Elena had traced its bulbous arc with her fingertips, measuring the swell of it, prodding the taut skin. The likely explanation was not a giant, but twins, and for a first birth, that often meant catastrophe. She dipped a cloth into a copper pot of water that sat on the floor by the bed. With practiced movements, she bathed the woman's pale limbs, smoothed back her tangled hair, massaged lavender oil into her skin. "My lady, the baby can't wait any longer." Silence. She raised her voice. "Lady Marguerite, there's more yet to do. Rouse yourself." "Why do you shout at me so? Will you not let me sleep?" Marguerite turned her head toward Elena, her eyelids half open. Elena felt uneasy looking into those eyes. They were silvery green, like the hide of a tree frog, and the black lashes that framed them were spindly as spiders' legs. Perhaps it was this contrast of light and dark that made them so unsettling, or the long slanting sweep of them, or their size, for they seemed much too large for the woman's angular face. Whatever it was, there was something more feline than human about them, and Elena had never been fond of cats. She looked away and put a hand on the distended belly. "If you wish your baby to die, by all means sleep." Something hard, a knee, a foot, pressed against her palm with urgent, fluttery movements. "If you wish your baby to live, then push. Now make your choice." The glowing eyes found hers. A pale, slender hand slipped into her strong brown one. The young woman on the bed took a deep breath, set her jaw, and bore down. The night was half gone when the baby was born. She squirmed and flailed her limbs, gulping air into her lungs and pumping it out again with wild shrieks. Elena cleaned her, swaddled her, and thrust her into her mother's arms. Marguerite bent her head over the baby. A girl! God help me. The newborn quieted and stared unblinking at her mother. After a few moments of utter stillness, she opened her tiny red mouth and began rooting for a breast. She will be called Miramond, Marguerite said softly, one who sees the world. How much can a girl see from behind a wall? Elena asked. Marguerite shook her head. She will not be caged. When she's old enough, she will learn the ways of the mountain people. Elena stared. Who will teach her? You. Words of protest rose up in Elena's throat, but before she could speak, Marguerite convulsed in pain again. Ah, I thought as much, Elena said, careful to keep a neutral voice. Twins. No, Marguerite moaned. That cannot be. What if it is another girl? Then we'll be doubly grateful to have a plan in place. When the second baby slid out of his mother's womb, Elena held him aloft so Marguerite could see what she had birthed. He was a tiny, red, crumpled thing, smaller than his sister. Elena rubbed him briskly with a piece of clean linen and blew on his drowsing eyelids until he opened his mouth and emitted a faint wail. An heir! My husband will be pleased. Marguerite's voice was low and rough, but whether that was due to emotion or exhaustion, Elena could not tell. If he survives the war, Elena said. Talk like that can get you whipped. Have a care. Who is going to hear? Your father-in-law's bedded down with his favorite wench, and the steward's lame back has made a thief of him. What do you mean? Marguerite's bloodshot eyes flickered to the door and back. Poppy milk? He's got your mother-in-law's bedtime habit now. Head lolling on the pillow, drooling. 'Tis not a pretty sight. Another gust of wind barreled down from the high peaks, and the shutters struggled against the rolled-up rug. Thump, thump, thump. Elena hurled an irritated look in the direction of the balcony and got back to the business of cleaning and swaddling the boy. She tucked him under his mother's arm and led his pursed red lips to her other breast. For a time, they listened to the baby's nursing and the soft thumping of the shutters. In the space of a moment, you have slandered my husband's parents and their steward. I have seen serfs lose their heads for less damning words, Marguerite said finally. I placed all my trust in Brother Eros bringing you here. Now I wonder why he places his trust in you. Elena shrugged. I'm a creature of the mountains. Never learned to talk like a lady. You can start by biting your tongue. There are no secrets in this place. Tell me, my lady, if there are no secrets in the house of Otto, why am I here? We'll fail before we even begin. I order you to cease your prattling, and your impertinence grows. I've simply asked a question, my lady, Elena shot back. A fair one. Our plan will succeed. It must. And now you'll do your part to keep her safe. A tense silence settled over them until the baby girl fell asleep. Elena plucked her out of her mother's grasp and wrapped her in a length of soft wool. When all is said and done, you've 2 healthy babies, she said, and one of them a son. The luck of that. Marguerite closed her eyes, one hand on the necklace at her throat. Yes, the luck. There was a stable boy Elena trusted, whose mother she had healed from illness on 2 occasions. She drew her cloak shut to conceal the sleeping baby swaddled against her chest. Bending over the boy's nest in the straw, she gently woke him and asked him to fetch a certain horse that she knew to be steady and calm. He readied the mare and helped Elena into the saddle. She squeezed his hand in the dark. The horse clopped down the stone alley to the castle gates. The guards were not surprised to see her. She often came and went at odd hours. Good evening, my lady, called one. Look at you on that fine horse. I'm not one to put on airs, you know that well enough, she said in as light a voice as she could muster. Even poor mountain folk like me are given a favor now and then. The men unlatched the heavy doors and the great oak doors swung open. Are you not afraid of wolves and bears? The other guard asked. Those creatures fear the moonlight. Puts them under a spell, it does. The guard snorted. The beasts outside these gates fear nothing but fire and iron. Elena forced out a laugh and prodded the horse forward. Behind her, the crossbars clanged shut. She turned her head and spat. An urge rose up in her to yank the horse's nose due west and gallop hard all the way to Basque country, to the edge of the world where the rivers flowed into the sea. Instead, she dug her heels into the horse's belly, guiding it deep into the mountains. There was no point wasting her thoughts on idle fantasies. She would not betray a promise. Okay, thank you everybody. That's all I have time for today. I hope you enjoyed that reading from The Girl from Oto. And now I would like to introduce you to our next author, Ken Preston. Ken, take it away. And thanks again everyone for joining us, and I hope that you win the Kindle and the free books. Bye.